Nashville Access.
All right, well, I had the chance today to sit down and speak to two living legends, and I couldn't pass this up. My name is Dallas Rogers. I'm the host of Nashville Access, and welcome to a conversation with Billy Ray Cyrus and Don Von Tress, the performers and writers of one of the greatest songs that has ever been recorded. And if you don't believe me, I've got the stats to back it up, Achy Breaky Heart. Now, I'm glad you guys could take some time and sit down and talk with me today, because it is one of the most recognized songs in the world, yet it's probably one of the least understood songs about how it came to be and what it actually encompasses and how it changed so many lives. So that's one of the things I'd like to talk to you guys about today, because I know that we're in the year of is it the 25th anniversary?
25 years since it came out. Exactly 25 years this spring right now. Mm-hmm.
I didn't think a song could make me feel old.
Well, you look back on it, man, you just think how much the world has changed in that 25 years. Wow. But yet, on the other hand, I was asked recently, what was it about that song? And you look at 1991 is when I recorded the song, when I met Don. Mm-hmm. And the song came out in the spring of 92. And you look at what our world was going through. There were wars, rumors of wars. There were riots. There was a divide between the people. The people around the world were more divided. Politically, complete insanity.
Yeah.
Well, skip forward 25 years, you kind of got the same thing going on. There's still there's just a lot going on in this world that some way parallels a bit of what was going on in 92. That being said, it felt like a really good time for a happy song then, and it feels like a good time for a happy song now. You know what I mean?
I would totally agree with that.
Sometimes people just like to be able to sing, dance, know the words. If they play air guitar, they pretend they know every lick, whatever it is, just something besides dealing with all the heavy in this crazy world.
Not too many people know it. I am a virtuoso on the air guitar. I've been training for years.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's actually going to have one named after me.
You got all these records?
Yeah, man.
Far out.
That's right.
So now, Don, let me ask you just the quick question is when you were writing this song, because I know that sometimes I've been writing songs in Nashville for a lot of years and everything, and every now and then you stumble on one that you write, and when you get finished, you're like, that's a hit. Was this one of those, or was this one of those, all right, we're done with that one, we'll shelve it? And
Well, it was early in my writing career, so the references weren't really there, but I do know that when I finished the first verse and the chorus and that guitar lick and did the little ooh thing, I had this strange feeling like either something really big had been gifted to me, or else I just stumbled into something and the right combination of stuff. And so I did have a feeling that it was a potentially big song.
now I know that when you wrote this song, it was not at the height of your career. I know that you were at the time had kind of you were wallpaper. Is that what it was?
I was wallpapering, and a couple of years before I'd quit the music industry for good for like the 10th time.
How many times can you throw something against the wall and have it not stick? Right?
Yeah, and luckily my wife didn't like, or maybe didn't want me around as much or something, but she bought me this guitar and for Christmas, and the first two songs I wrote, one of them was Achy Breaky Heart. So yeah, it was
Wow.
me, maybe with some pin-up stuff that had been sitting there for a while, but
Right.
The fates were there,
Wow. So wait, so you had just gotten the guitar when you wrote? So you still have the guitar then? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got her.
I got an old guitar in my place that I can't get rid of, because the first song I wrote on it, and then I actually had it, somebody cut it and was touring and playing it a little, and I hated the guitar because it's got action that's that high off the thing. It was awful, but now I can't get rid of it. So yeah. So all right, so you write this song, you have a feeling about it. When did you give it to Billy? How did you get it? I guess.
You should go give us a little prelude up to where I come in. I think.
Well, of course, I wrote half the song, and my good friend Russ Sabatson then was working for Harold Shedd and was in charge of Millhouse Music. And so when I'd write things in those days, I'd run it past Russ, and I brought it up to him. He liked it, said, write another verse, and he did tell me don't use a co-writer, which was one of the best pieces of advice anybody ever gave me. But I finished the song, we demoed it, and everybody was kind of hooping and hollering. We thought we'd really done something spectacular, and I thought, well, I'm going to go buy new clothes and a car. And a year later, it was still sitting on the shelf. It had been recorded by a group from California, as you probably know, the Marcy Brothers, and it was kind of a lackluster version. And at that point, I thought the history of the song was over. And then enters this guy, the kid from Kentucky, and you can take it from there, man.
Well, I was in Huntington, West Virginia. I played a bar up there for years called the Ragtime Lounge, and ragtime is a very, very polite way of saying honky tonk.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of a rock club honky tonk, and me and the band would play 5 nights a week, 4 sets a night. At that point, I had recorded Some Gave All as somewhat as a test and a demo for the producers and for Harold Shedd to look at. I wanted to use my band on the record, and it was something that just wasn't done in Nashville at the time. And Harold said, I'll give you a test. We'll do Some Gave All. And we started with Some Gave All in January, cut the song. Everybody loved it and said, okay, we're going to do 9 more songs the first week of June. And Joe Scaife was coming to Huntington, West Virginia, to the club early that day, drove up from Nashville, and we were going to rehearse all the songs we were going to record for the back 9.
Right.
And before we got started, he actually apologized and said, you may think I'm crazy. He said, part of me thinks I'm crazy, but he said, I'm packing this demo. Back then it was on a thing called a cassette. And that too was, yeah, I know. Like I do it with my fingers to show what the cassette was square.
Yeah, this is a manual rewind thing for him, remember?
Yeah, so he pulls out this cassette, and it's called Don't Tell My Heart, and he puts it in a jam box. We all remember those, played the cassette. And by the time it got to the chorus, the first chorus wasn't even finished, I stood up physically and said, that's me. That everything in my life has led to this moment. I'm kind of get feelings and kind of deep like that, if you will. Maybe some might call it over dramatic, but I stood up and said, that's me. And we stopped it, took it down to the club, and me and the band worked it up that day.
Wow.
And by that night, I'll never forget, first set, we were going to play it just because we'd been rehearsing it. And by the time we played it, when we took a break, everybody come up and said, you got to play that Achy Breaky song again. Play it Achy Breaky. I said, yeah, it's called Don't Tell My Heart. Play that Achy Breaky. So we played it 4 times that night, 4 times the next. And by the end of that week in Huntington, West Virginia, that song was the hottest song on the planet in Huntington, West Virginia.
I grew up 45 minutes from there. I remember all of this.
Right on. Are you from
Madison?
He's from Boone County.
Wow. That is awesome. You know Terry Shelton?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know Terry, he was playing guitar. Mm-hmm. And everybody just kind of, you could just feel when we played it. There was something special. So I threw one of my songs off. Probably the best move I ever made was throwing off a song that I had written called Whiskey, Wine, and Beer. And I threw off Whiskey, Wine, and Beer, added this song, and, kind of the...
You threw out a song in the early 90s off of a country music record that actually had whiskey in the title.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That took guts.
It did. And I like to look back at it and think, and maybe just a little bit of common sense.
You're a visionary.
You're
a visionary.
This thing just felt like a hit. I play music by ear. I play by feel. I get feelings about it. And this thing just felt like a hit. The one thing that was pretty clear, though, is everybody that would request it would say, play that Achy Breaky song. Play that Achy Breaky song. So the day that I finally did meet Don, several months had passed, we'd recorded the song, and Don came to the music mill, and again, Russ sitting over there behind the console now.
Right.
Talk about going full circle. Russ, great call on the Hanging with the Tune, man. Thank you. And we came and Don was coming up to hear what we did. And Don came, the first words he ever spoke to me was, he said, man, thank you for writing Some Gave All, man. He's, Don is a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
And I said, man, thank you for writing Don't Tell My Heart. And at that moment, it was kind of like, I found my musical soulmate. I hope you don't mind me saying this,
man,
but there was a bond from that moment on. We shook hands. As we were still shaking, I did say, there's only one thing, man, that if I could, anything different about it. And Don's like, what are you thinking, man? What are you thinking? I said, I think the name of that song is Achy Breaky Heart. And I said, everybody requested just says, play that Achy Breaky song. So maybe the name is Achy Breaky Heart. And Don said, I don't care what you call it, just put it out. And everybody was standing there, and Harold Sheds, Achy Breaky Heart. That's what it is. It's Achy Breaky, and away we went running. And here we are, 25 years later, much to the surprise of many, including myself, we're still here, still able to talk about it, still making music, still recording, writing songs. And I thank God for this wonderful man, this wonderful soul and spirit of a human being that came into my life.
Well, I think that the underestimated thing or the understated thing about the song is that it became a pop culture juggernaut. I mean, it really changed the face of country music, what was now allowed in country music, what could be popular. Because a lot of times, if you remember, that was back when, right when the whole idea of putting something out that wasn't all steel guitar and fiddle, everyone was thinking, that'll never really make it on the radio. That's not going to work right. I mean, you have to have this, and you kind of broke that mold and proved that the country audience was more sophisticated than just steel and fiddle and banjo. And I think that you guys deserve a little bit of credit for that, because I don't think you get enough of it, because that really did change. You opened the door for guys like Brett Eldridge and folks like that. So I really think that if no one's told you lately, thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Country music has
That was
benefited greatly from you guys finding each other and making this song what it was.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Your sincerity is...
Well, I'm dead serious about that. Listen, I've been in country music
Thank
now
you.
for 25 years, and there are very few songs that you can look back on that actually turned a corner for the format, in the genre in general. And Achy Breaky Heart was one of those.
Wow. Thank you for saying that.
You guys are really on a very short and distinguished list of songs that have changed the face of country music. Now, my question for this is, after the song came out, we all talk about it now because we realize the genius and we see how much it was loved and how many people like it. But right after you put it out, wasn't immediately evident, was it?
Well, for every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction.
Right.
That's just the laws. That's the way life works, and that's the law. So that being said, this song was about passion. Mm-hmm. And I realized with passion, you either love it or hate it. There is no middle ground.
Right,
My
no
dad
gray
always
area.
said, only two things in the middle of the road. That's yellow lines and dead possums. This song was neither of those. So, I was willing to accept that and say, yeah, I would rather make something and people be passionate about it, and rather than just try to make some vanilla.
Right.
Chocolate or strawberry.
Yeah, and if you listen to that whole album, that Some Gave All album, it was so fresh, and there was a purity or an honesty to it that just it kind of washed over you when you heard it.
Well, the biggest problem that people had was they thought that sincerity, because one of the things country music has always had is three chords and the truth. And that level of sincerity, I don't think people understood that you could actually do that with production value. Because, a lot of times you used production value to mask the fact that you didn't have any truth or sincerity in the song. You just had a cool melody and something that rhymed. But you guys found a song that had all of it. And it was kind of the total package. So then you put this song out, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, the first, 2 or 3 weeks, the radio was not comfortable with it yet, and then I think if and correct me if I'm wrong, and pick up on this where I start going off track. Weren't you at work one day when you saw something about it on the Today Show? Is that what it was?
Well, actually, the first good news I had about it, I was hanging wallpaper in a nursing home, and they let me stay in one of the rooms, which was appropriate, I guess. But I had a little radio with me, and they had a top 10 countdown, and I had never heard the song on the radio, and listened to it, and they got to number one, and it was our song, and I thought, man, when did that happen, So, but there was a point where it kind of languished, right, before it really took off. I remember Russ telling me one day, I came to the music mill, and he said the single has sold like 80,000 copies, and I thought, well, how do you beat that? I mean, it can't get any better than that, So, and then it proceeded to.
Yes, it did, sir. Well, I think what I think is funny about it is the fact that just like the old Roman saying that the first one through the wall always gets bloody, and I think you guys are kind of breaking new ground a little bit, and especially on country radio. So when you finally got through and people started paying attention, when it blew up. I mean, worldwide. I remember a story I think Russ told us about somebody seeing. They were interviewing an African warlord that had taken, and behind the interview there were kids dancing around the boombox while Achy Breaky Heart was playing in the middle of Africa, and this is 6 weeks after the song came out.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw the one Africa. When I saw the kids dancing in Africa, it felt like. See, my original purpose was to make music that would be heard around the world, and that God would give me the wisdom and vision to use that music to touch people's lives for His light and His love.
Yeah.
When I saw kids dancing in Africa, and they were happy, hungry, but happy, and dancing, and saying, "That's your purpose, Cyrus. That's your purpose." I saw a big line at that time. I think it was known as the world's largest line dance, out in front of the Kremlin in Russia. I go, those people are cold, but they're happy. And to me, that's what the music was about, was moving people around the world to feel the love and the passion of the music. Seeing these particular things in 92 was an interesting part of that, saying, this is your purpose, man. Just the music is to move people. And seeing those kids dance was a big part of it. An interesting thing about the dance, you may know, before that song came out, the only other places I would play besides the Ragtime Lounge would be country boot scooting clubs.
Right.
And I'm the first to say, they hated me. They hated me because like all I played was Leonard Skinner and Bob Seger, and then I would certainly resort back to my roots of country music: Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, Waylon, Willie. I played all that catalog, but I didn't know any boot scooting music. That's not what I did. And then I wrote the other originals that we played, and so the boot scooters would look, wait a minute, who's this guy come into our dance club? He don't play anything we know. He plays a bunch of Southern rock and a bunch of songs he wrote, blah, blah, blah. Where's the boot scoot, So lo and behold, Achy Breaky comes, and in a meeting down here with the record company at the time, we'd recorded the song, and they were having some ideas saying, is there anything special about this song that you can tell us? And I said, all I know is I'll be in these boot scooting clubs where they hate me, and then all of a sudden I'll kick into that song and the dance floor will pack. And this was before the album came out, before there ever was a single. This is still 1991, and I'm living in the car that is parked in the parking lot of the clubs. Like, that's my home. But I'd go in there, and for that moment, everyone would be in love, and they'd all be dancing and doing this thing. And that song just packs the dance floor. And someone stood up and said, how about if there was a dance? And somebody else stood up and we'll get Melanie Greenwood, who was a great choreographer, and she immediately, like, she made some steps, and I saw it and I go, there's only one thing about like that dance though. It looks like a really good country dance from what I can tell of what they do, but it seems like a specific dance like that needs a hook with the singer, like, Chubby Checker and the twist. It needs, there's something that they got to do with the singer. And they said, what do you do? And I said, nothing. and then they said, oh, you got to do something. I said, well, I'm playing guitar, so I just sit and strum left-handed. And I said, maybe just every now and then, if it's second set or third set, and I'm loosening up, maybe my hips might go just a little bit from, and I stood up and moved just a little from left to right, and Melanie Greenwood goes, that's it. And she stood up and she put that hip movement into the steps, and that became the dance. And so oddly, this song and the dance clubs, it all opened up worldwide. It became all about people doing this dance. I myself, I'm not a dancer, but yet I do have a little bit of a signature in that thing, being that A, I love the song, and B, because of necessity, I had to think of one thing that I could contribute to that dance.
And the great part about that is that it was hip movement.
It was just a little bit.
You're doing something right, though.
Yeah, thanks.
Very
It
good.
may be why I'm sitting here with this pillow behind my back now.
That's what I'm saying.
I wore it out then.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the fact that it is the 25th anniversary of the song, and over these 2.5 decades, it has become one of the best-selling songs, one of the most recognized songs, and one of the most requested songs on the radio outside of the United States. Now, I can't imagine either of you saw that coming, but I mean, at what point did all this start sinking in that you guys now have a song that 50 years from now is going to be one of the 10 or 15 that people talk about from this era?
Something interesting about that, and I look up, I see Stephanie there that runs our social media, and she knows that last night I never thought about this, but for some reason I took a picture of Carl Perkins that's in my studio there. I took a picture and we tweeted it up and posted that I'm kind of carrying around, I do every day, but more so than most right now, I feel a lot of that spirit of Carl Perkins. He became really one of my truest, best friends of life. And to answer your question, I attribute a lot of that worldwide success on the fact that Carl Perkins had become my very good friend early on from the release of the record. And he said, Hoss, you got a chance for a worldwide global smash here, but you got to do something. He said, you got to go there. He said, it's one thing, all these pop stations and everybody's playing your record. He said, right now, you have to go there. And if you go to Europe, you go to Australia, you go around the world and play this music for people who know your song, you'll always have a career. And he went on to say, America, man, is a very fickle and very fast food, man. Used to McDonald's, drive through, get the burger, and move on to what's next. That's America's always moving forward. But he said the universal audience, if you go there and you take the time to show them that you're here and that you care that they care. You care that they know the words to your song. You care that they can sing along with every song you play off the album. Go there and show them that you care. And I listened, and we did the world tours, and it was hard. It kept us busy for, I guess we did about 2 to 3 years of solid touring. And a lot of that was, out of the United States.
And when you say solid touring, you're talking 280, 300 shows a year.
I'd say,
I bet.
yeah, Sometimes, yeah, easy. We was getting it. Looking back on it now, I don't see how we did it, but at
To
the
the day
time,
sometimes.
yeah, it was so much fun though. It didn't feel like work. Like it was just the funnest thing. All I really wanted to do was be a singer, songwriter, and be in a band.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. That's what I wanted to do.
You're crushing it, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Well, now, Don, I know that as a songwriter, to have something happen this big on a scale this big, and then and the fact that it's Billy Ray and that you guys became so tight, because I know a lot of times if you've got artists that cut your songs, sometimes you never even meet them.
Right.
So has this been as, I don't know, emotionally fruitful as it seems to have your friend be the one that cut the song, and then you guys are kind of getting to ride this roller coaster together?
Oh gosh! Absolutely.
Should I leave the room so you can tell the truth?
You guys want a hug?
No, I'll tell them a different story. But no, absolutely, it was great, and number one, I mean, I didn't have anything to compare it to, and Billy didn't really either. And,
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, and that's I think that's one of the reasons that we kind of circled the wagon, because you couldn't call your friend and go, man, you know what that feels like, and nobody has
really.
a clue. So, yeah, it was huge, and then to start touring with him, I was out there every day and seeing how that worked, and he let me ride the Learjet with him and stuff, So, but yeah, emotional. I to this day, I tell people every day I think about how blessed or fortunate I was to have written the song, have hooked up with this guy, and see that outcome. It's just it's indescribable, quite honestly.
Well, Billy, I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that you've recut it, and you've got a new recording, and it's in different languages, and I mean, and from what I understand, you've got some collaborations on an album, and I mean, tell me about all the new stuff that's happening with the song and with you. Like, walk me through from today forward. What are we looking at in the next 6 months?
It's a beautiful spot, without oversimplifying the fact that Don Von Tress and I went through this incredible journey, and it wasn't all good. Yeah. There was tough times, and so for every bit of happiness and joy that was around it, there was probably something that equally might have hurt, or some, things that didn't go right. But what I found in Von Tress as my musical partner, I found a guy that no matter what we was doing, what happens with me is when I write a song, I get an idea and the words and the music kind of come. And I could be at that time period and now going full circle, going, okay, Don, I really want to write a song about, at that time in 92, there was some stories about child abuse. And here we are singing this, happy-go-lucky dance song that's fun. But the truth was, Don and I both were much more concerned with the future of our children, being the children of the world, hunger, poverty, depletion of the ozone layer. It struck both of us as a horrible catastrophe that there were whales and dolphins and sea lions washing up on the shores. You could see that the earth itself, the Mother Earth, if you will, was just being abused. I go, Don, I'm really thinking about, it's just look at the insanity of the world. Enough is enough, And Don says, enough tears have been shed, enough hurt has been hidden, enough blood has been bled. Look at him. Enough is enough, let it rain love and trust till a steel fist of rage has fallen into rust. Enough is enough. Don and I started writing songs that were much more beyond the zone of where we were at, but in the same lines, we just started writing so many songs together, and that was my musical partner, and we would write. He and I were on the cutting edge of bringing in-home studios into a place where you can record in your home or in a tour bus. We were looking at the system going, man, we really never ever did fit into the way they shuck them out and cut them out in the cookie cutter mold of what's going on in Nashville. I'm never going to fit into that.
Right.
I just want to make music that feels real. I wrote the song The Trail of Tears. We went to my buddy Terry Shelton's house and we had purchased some gear, and we start making the album Trail of Tears in his house. I mean, became the moment of going, wow, man, this is why I bought a guitar and started a band, was because it was about the music. It wasn't about all this other stuff. Well, to answer your question exactly, all these years go by and this whole journey happens, and somewhere along the line, I start acting and those things that I consider all of the above a blessing and a part of my journey. But I do get sad at times and miss the moment of what would have happened if I hadn't have started acting, and how much more music we could have made. And at times, maybe that's just the way the story goes. And I'm okay with that too, because we're here now. But this whole crazy ride goes by, coming down to a year ago, Don and I maybe he called me or I called him, somehow we started communicating. We're going, can you believe it's been 24 years? That brings us to this recording now. Don says, man, crazy idea. What if you came to Muscle shows? I go, Muscle shows? I've been wanting to record Muscle shows. A lot of my favorite records were recorded in Muscle shows. Don knows all the guys, the Swampers, the whole team. He goes, what if you came down here and let's cut a 25-year anniversary of Achy Breaky Heart? Oh, man, that would be great, man. Let's do it. Well, my mind starts setting in going, Muscle shows a long drive, you know, man. Hey, Don, maybe we should just do it up here in Nashville. There's some great studios. Don has great instincts. He's like, we could do that, and I would do that. He said, but my spirit says, you know, there's something really authentic about bringing that song to the Muscle shows. And I said, you're right. There's no other way to do it. So last summer, a year ago, we did a session, had just a team of great players. Jimmy Nutt that runs the studio there, the Nutt House. I don't know if you've been there.
Oh, okay.
You know the Nutt House?
I used to go down and write at Fame all the time, but I've been over there a couple of times.
Yeah, it's several miles from there over in Sheffield. Beautiful studio, an old bank.
There's a lot of juju in that room, man.
Oh, you got to go. You got to go down to this particular. It's really cool. So we end up cutting this track, and it feels like the original cut. Myself, I kept saying, Don, I want it to feel exactly like your demo, the song I fell in love with in Huntington. And it really kind of naturally adapted into that. And then we get this track and we sat on it for months and kind of thinking, what are we going to do with it? And one thing led to another. We both felt like we should reach out to Russ. Russ ended up coming into the mix with us, and mountains began to move. All of a sudden, the song found its life. Jen Carlos, Ronnie Millsap, Dorado.
By Dorado.
Yeah, I mean, they've played the song for 25 years down in Mexico. As you know, they've had a big hit on it there. Can't go to a wedding without hearing them sing. You know,
every fiesta.
That verse. So they're now on the record. The cool thing about Ronnie Millsap, not only is he the living legend, Ronnie was one of the guys before Don ever knew me in, say, 91 or so. Ronnie was wanting to cut it for, I guess, RCA. Oh, wow. And they wouldn't let him. And they wouldn't let him cut it. So he loved the song. And so
does he have that little pinch of, it could have been me?
Oh, he's on the track. He plays piano on the track now. And I feel like he put so much feeling into it and thinking of, I think that might be what he had in his head 26 years ago, was how much good time honky tonk feel he could add on the piano. And then his voice is still golden. So
I was at his induction ceremony for the Hall of Fame. Just magnificent.
It's tremendous. I mean,
he hasn't lost a step.
No, he hasn't lost a thing. I'm even a bigger. I was always the biggest fan.
He's like wine. He just gets better.
Unbelievable. So he's on the track with us now. It has taken on a somewhat of a global life, and you know, it just feels like a fun time period. Again, the fact that I'm just sitting by Von Tress, talking about music, making music. We've started writing some new songs, looking at some stuff that Russ and I have been working on, bringing into a full-bodied album, and the cornerstone being Achy Breaky Heart that started it all. Just feels good.
Well, it seems to be going really, really well. And I know that, like, with the collaborations and stuff, like, I've got a note here that you're working with Brett Kissel.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's he's one of those hidden gems that not too many people realized was out there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like to, gosh, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm bragging. I don't mention it that often. But I was also one of the guys that discovered's a pretty heavy word. But Chris Stapleton was in a studio 10 years ago doing some demos. I was in the studio making an album for Walt Disney Records and recording a song called Ready, Set, Don't Go. I heard Chris Stapleton's voice coming through the walls, and I go, I wonder if we could get that guy in there to come in here and sing background on this record. Well, they went and asked him. Chris Stapleton steps in, and then I become the biggest Steel Drivers fan. I caught up on my bluegrass where I've been in LA for so long, so I go, oh man, this is what a gem of a voice. Chris Stapleton comes in and sings. That's actually him doing a lot of the harmonies in Ready, Set, Don't Go.
Oh, wow.
A few months later, I think the song was, by then it had caught a bullet and was up, had just peaked over 30 and was still bulleting up, and then Miley joined in, and the song became a great big record. But Chris Stapleton, again, he's from US 23, where I'm from up in eastern Kentucky. He's part of that legacy of that piece of highway from Loretta Lynn's house to Ricky Skaggs to Dwight Yoakam, to Bobby Bear, Judds, Patty Loveless, myself, and Tom T. Hall. I mean, Keith Whitley. We're all from this little stretch of highway on US 23. And Chris is part of that and doing us all proud. But anyway, Chris was part of, there's been a lot of people that's came into my musical life that I feel so fortunate, to have worked with. Going back to Carl Perkins, Don and I wrote a song with Carl Perkins called
betcha.
Truth Is I Lied.
Yeah, love it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
So the Brett Kissel thing takes Billy full circle back to Canada again, and I believe that's where you had your first, was that first platinum record? Or?
First gold record was
First
handed
gold
to me
record.
at a bowling alley in Calgary, Canada. Before it,
Of course it was.
honestly, before I ever got any wallpaper in the States, it was Canada that caught the record on fire. I'll be honest. Yeah. And when they started passing out awards at the bowling alley, and they handed me a gold plaque, by the time I got back to America, it spawned off of that. It's interesting. Wow. And I have a great admiration and a lot of affection for the people of Canada. You may know my first series doc was filmed in Toronto. Yep. Got to know some great people, a lot of great friends, and
I got chased by a guy with an axe through Port Hope outside of Toronto.
No way.
2 blocks.
No way.
I'm lucky to be here to talk to you, Bill.
Man, I'll tell you what, man.
He was wearing a leather jacket and scared me to death.
Dude, oh God, man. I better change.
It's funny that Canada seemed to be the ones that found it immediately, because it's always their radio rules and their music rules up there are crazy. I mean, no, I say crazy not in a bad way, but are just really. If you go do radio and music in America, Canada, their rules up there, like on the radio, every third or fourth artist has to be a Canadian artist that you play, and you have to prove that to the government. So it's kind of a cool thing that an American song gets discovered up there and kind of starts leading the charge on it in an area where they're told every fourth song we have to ignore you. So well done.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. Give all the credit to Don, to be honest.
Well
Good job, buddy. Good job.
Thanks.
Well, I know that we've got the song is going out worldwide, and we're doing the re-release, and it's a 25th anniversary. Is there anything that you really would like to see happen specifically with this whole thing? Is there any set goal, or are you just like, man, I want to spread some more love? I'm celebrating this with everybody. Is there a goal, or is this a celebration?
It's both. I'd like to see the song be a bridge again to pull people together. There's enough divide in this world. If by Cinco de Mayo, if everybody can crank this thing up and hear a little something different, something they never heard before, but still have that feeling of we can sing this. This can be something that unites people, not divides.
Yeah.
And throughout the rest of the summer and through this whole time period of, we're going to go out and do some tour dates. Hopefully, see a lot of the fans from throughout the years, and then the new kids that are out there. And there's just it's a great opportunity to go out and play music and have people sing the words by heart, if you will. And the song kind of goes back to what Carl said. Just go out and let people know that you are a singer, songwriter, an artist that wanted to be in a band. You appreciate the fact that they know the words to the songs. Now crank it up, show them a good time.
Well, you're pulling it off. Billy Ray Cyrus, Don Von Tress, thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me, and congratulations on all the success with the record and the song, and thank you again for helping country music find its path into a more streamlined, popular way. I like that, and I enjoy. See, I'm country music. I'm such a huge fan myself, so it's an honor to be sitting with you guys.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love it. Amazing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, make sure you check out the record. Make sure you get your copy, and make sure you get one for all your friends and use it as your Christmas gift for everyone on your list. That's my sales pitch.
Nice.
But don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart. I just don't think it understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy